Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars, and welcome to my review for the 2019 horror film Girl on the Third Floor, a film that is directed by Travis Stevens and it stars CM Punk, the ex-wrestler CM Punk. We have Trieste, Kelly Dunn and Sarah Brooks. Now this is a film that I first became aware of a couple of weeks ago. I saw an interview with CM Punk on Collider, I think it was, and he was talking about these two upcoming films that he was in. The first one, Rabid, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago on the channel, which he only had a small part in, and this film, Girl on the Third Floor, where he is essentially the main actor in this film. And this film focuses on CM Punk's character, Don Koch, who is renovating a house that he has bought for himself and his pregnant wife, his heavily pregnant wife. Now this house is going to be a fresh start for them. He's got a pretty patchy past as Don Koch. Doesn't go into too much detail, but it seems like he might be in some kind of witness protection program type thing. And so he goes in to renovate this house. It needs a lot of work before his heavily pregnant wife can make the move up there with him. However, this house is deeply haunted, especially when it's a straight man that is going to move in there, which we learn from the guy at the local bowling alley and from the local parish priest across the way and stuff, that some families have lived there very, very happily for many years and some haven't, and it's usually straight men that have struggled. And we learn fairly soon into renovating this house that is not going to be an easy job at all. It's in a terrible state. There's all this weird gloopy stuff coming out of walls and plug holes, and it's these weird marbles keep flying around everywhere, and it's clear that he's not alone in this house. And then he is visited by what he thinks is a neighbour called Sarah, and he kind of does the dirty on his wife and instantly regrets it, and this Sarah then becomes a bit of a problem, won't go away, and the film then focuses on that side of it, him trying to move on with the renovations of the house and put his mistake behind him and all that kind of stuff. But Sarah might have more of a connection to the house than he realises. Right, that's kind of the plot here. I don't want to say too much more because I seriously don't want to get into spoilers here. Now this film is interesting in a few ways. It's actually quite a nice take on like the haunted house type film. I quite like the fact that they make out this house is alive. It's almost like it's living and breathing, and it's organic. I really like that approach. You can see when he's bashing into walls, it's almost like it's hurting the house and it's splurting out blood and slime and things everywhere. And I quite like that. I like the history, the past of the house, and I like the house itself. It was almost like a character itself in the movie. I thought that all kind of worked. I thought CM Punk here, to say that he's not an actor by trade, and it's his first leading role, you could argue, I think does a pretty decent job here. I mean, you can tell he's not a trained actor at times with some of the facial expressions he does here and there, but I could imagine after another 5 to 10 films, if that's the route he's going to be going down, he could be quite a competent actor, I think. And I think he does a pretty decent job of carrying this film. The major problem with his character, and it's nothing to do with him, he's playing a role, is this character is so deeply unlikable, and I can't emphasise that enough. Deeply unlikable. We're talking about a guy who cheats on his heavily pregnant wife. He's clearly got a sordid past. He's got an attitude problem with seemingly everybody. When stuff starts kicking off in this film, you do not care about this character. You have no empathy or sympathy for him, and I think that's a huge problem in a horror film. If you cannot relate to the character or have any connection to them or care about what happens to them, then I think you've failed. And I think they needed to make this character a little bit more sympathetic. Yes, he could still have his sordid past, but he could be trying and working really hard to put that behind him. And I don't think they did a good enough job in this film of putting that message across that he was trying to move on with his life and make a better life for him and his heavily pregnant wife. It seemed like he hadn't changed at all. So it just was terribly unlikable. And for me, that was the major problem with this film. I couldn't enjoy it because of that. And even his wife, Liz, when you mainly see her initially through Skype calls and all that kind of stuff. When she turns up later on at the house, she's not particularly likeable either. Now you could argue she's got good reason to, because she's got a husband who's a bit of a bad un really, and she turns up to a house and there's all this chaos kicking off. You can kind of understand her attitude a little bit more, but still not a particularly likeable character. And there's some of the other characters in the film weren't nowhere near fleshed out enough, like the female priest from across the way, and this Sarah. Her story I don't think was delved into enough for us to fully understand and relate to her part in the role. They only lightly touch on who she is late on into the film, even though you can kind of figure out who she is by watching the film. So I think this was an interesting take on the haunted house approach. It does its job pretty well, and I really like the way they did the organic approach to the house and stuff. And there are some effective moments near the end of the film, certainly in regards to gore. There's an awful scene with a marble that's pretty hard to watch. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. I think they could have improved the CM Punk character a little bit to make you care for him a little bit more. But it was a decent attempt at a horror film here, and it's certainly pretty watchable. So thanks for watching, everybody, and of course I'll see you next time for more reviews on Screen Stars.